Happy Tuesday, Rare community. Remember years ago when we were all told the key to success revolved around striking balance between our personal life and our professional lives? I remember that, and it literally stressed me out. Today, we're going to talk about how about we go ahead and forget about work-life balance, work-life integration, and start talking about work-life harmony. Welcome. Hey, I'm Tony Jalen, joined by the wonderful Danielle Jalen. Here for our Rare Live conversation happening every Tuesday. Thank you for those you guys who are joining us live on the Facebook community, Rare Leaders, joining us on Twitter or YouTube. And today we're going to talk about the concept of work-life harmony. It's been interesting in my research and things that I've been uncovering with it. And we're going to talk about how this concept, this idea of work-life harmony, may be a lot more healthier, a lot more real than work-life balance, work-life integration. Danielle, when I go ahead and share the phrase with you, work-life balance, what are your initial thoughts?
Well, I think a lot of times it brings me to thinking about the arguments and fights early in our marriage and relationship when we were trying to figure out how we were supposed to be together, and all either of us was doing was working, and we just didn't quite figure out how to have that time in our relationship together. And so when you talk about balance, to me that it just resonates all the times we spent arguing because we didn't have the time together to talk about the things that we used to talk about when we used to find to stay up till 2, 3 in the morning talking with one another. Didn't matter how tired we were when we were dating. And then all of a sudden here we are married, and how does this life work together?
It's interesting that you bring that up because I'm sure people who are watching this or listening to this here today, they're thinking, oh, yeah, I can think of arguments that I've had with my significant other when it comes to, you know what, you're out of balance, you're working all the time, or, and then, there's the old saying, well, if I'm not working, I'm not bringing in the cash. If I'm sitting around doing here, I'm not bringing in, like, there was that constant battle. And I remember how stressed that I was, like, okay, I got to shut things off at such and such a time. I got to do this. And there's a truth to that, right? There's a truth in when, you've got to go ahead and let up on different areas. But I think in today's world, and the pandemic really showed us of how much we've had to evolve. And like tomorrow, there might be a new phrase, but work-life balance, I think, was good in the days in which you just went to the office and, you left your work at the office. But with cell phones today and internet, work constantly comes around with us. And so let's go ahead and define what work-life balance and work-life integration were all about. They're about the what, the when, and the how. And work-life harmony is all about the why. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Who are you doing it for, and who are you doing it with? And so I think what we got to look at then is really to redefine the activities in this way and notice the shift that happens. So let me ask you this question. With that being said then, and I'll repeat again, work-life harmony is all about you. It's about your energy and where you invest it to make your life richer. And ultimately, it's about aligning your passion with your profession. So here's a question. We've been together now for 22 years. We're actually in Cozumel right now celebrating early for with those definitions of, the work-life balance, work-life integration is all about the what, the when, and the how, and work-life harmony is all about the why. Is work-life harmony really achievable, do you think?
I think whatever you put your mind to work on is achievable. So I think just being able to communicate with one another what needs that we need to feel met with in our relationship, I think helps a lot in creating that harmony, because I may have different needs than you have needs in our relationship. And if we work together to make those met, I think that we live in a better state of, I guess, harmony or peace than we would be if we were constantly trying to figure out like fulfilling what I need, what I need, what I need, and you're not giving it to me. But if I'm looking within myself to fill some of those things that I don't need you to fill, then I think it comes down to what am I offering to the relationship and how can I help create a better environment for us.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there is that I think when things got out of balance, when there's not harmony, it's because it's the lack of communication, right? And also explain to the other person of back to the harmony part, why are we doing what we're doing, right? What's the purpose behind it? So, I agree with you. It's definitely achievable. I think it's more achievable than work-life balance for sure. Because I don't know if you really just shut things off. Like, okay, I mean, I'm a very structured person. I like structure. I like having plans. And I think sometimes when you work to that work-life balance mindset, it's like, okay, I got to shut off at this time. I got to work off at this time. I got to start family life at this time and shut off family time at this time. I think another thing when it comes to looking at it in terms of the lens of work-life harmony, because where there's harmony, when there's unity, that's talking about that communication side. There's harmony, and when there's harmony, there's growth. What are you thinking about this thought about not trying to fixate on the long-term picture? Because we're human after all.
I think obviously that you have to have a big picture or a long-term picture of what your goals are. I think that it us like one of the biggest things for the realization after Ezekiel got his driver's license was like, wow, like this is a chapter in life that no one talks about. You have 2 more years now till he graduates, but he is very independent now and not so much needing those rides everywhere and to do all that. And it kind of brings to light, like, if you don't have a big picture and understand, like, there's different chapters that you go through in life and you're a family and you're married. And obviously 16 years ago when we first had him, that was not something that either of us was probably thinking about, like, oh my gosh, 18 years. Like, here we are 20 years later in our marriage, and it's like so much has happened. So I think, like, when you do sit down and you talk about, like, what are your goals 5-10 years from now, like, it's not so ridiculous to think about anymore after hitting this like 16-year mark where now it's just us. And if we don't have a long-term goal beyond that, I think that's when things start to crumble and you kind of feel like a little isolated. Like, we were married for this long and we survived. Now what? Like, if you're not to create harmony in your relationship, I think work can suck you away. And I think that can start to lead to those feelings that you had at the beginning of the relationship where everything's like all over the place. And so I think it's important to talk about that and to have a plan, and what our goals for not just now, but for 5-10 years down the road.
Yeah, I heard an interesting talk here just actually today in my part of my morning ritual of like putting something like different perspectives and ideas in my mind. And the guy said, like, you know what we really don't want, really don't want happiness. We want an impact. We want to make an impact. And I thought it was really interesting. I actually listened to it a few times to really try to get my mind wrapped around. We talk a lot about happiness, right? He said, think about these funeral questions, right? You pass away, and everyone. I think people think about this. Like, what are people going to say when I, pass away? Well, Tony had, a net worth of, $15 million, and he drove a really nice car, and they're not going to be saying that when they get up to the, pulpit and talk. And this question was really interesting when it especially comes back to that work-life harmony again. Because remember, work-life harmony is about the why. And he's like, okay, imagine who would you want to be sitting in the first two rows of your funeral? What would you want them to say when they get up in front and speak to everyone? And not have to lie about you neither.
Well,
And he's like, huh?
oh, I think it's important to like when you think about that stuff, and I know people don't want to think about it, but what kind of impact are you leaving behind more than what that you're known for being at work all the time? Like, you know, what kind of impact did you make in your family, in your kids' life, in those that are around you? Like just more talking about the impact that you're leaving. And yes, you'll be missed, but now you've instilled values in those that are around you to continue carrying forward, I think.
And that's where the work-life harmony comes into place. Is like, you know, understand nexus, like what are your values? What are the things that are your non-negotiables? What are the things that are very important to you? Because that leaves a lasting legacy. That can leave an impact. You know, when I hear Ezekiel now, when situations come up, and he goes, well, Dad, didn't even die or go to jail. Or we'll talk about stress. He goes, I don't get stressed. He's like, what does that, how does that, like, feeling that way serve me? And like, oh, well, something's actually getting through. This is a good thing, right? And I think too about work-life harmony. It's about managing your energy, because time is irreplaceable, right? You know, you can look at all your to-do lists and everything like that, and I'm about those things, but it's about managing where you're putting your energy into things. I think another thing is, you know, when it comes to work-life harmony is you got to give yourself a break. Like we're right now giving ourselves a 10-day break, right? And you got to take time to step away. And then sometimes it's hard. It's easier said than done. I mean, we're attached to our phones. Our phones are with us, right? And I think sometimes it's like, you know what? I just got to take a break from it. And that could even be, and I know some people might go, really? Wow, why would you ever want to take a break from this? It could be a break from your family. Even if it's for a little bit. Right. And I was listening to one of my it's an app been using since January called Fit Mind, and they're not a sponsor of the show. But this exercise they had me go through this morning was, okay, in one sentence, describe who you are. So for example, an example could be I am Tony Jalen. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a son. I am a business leader that works to go inspire and impact others. And now slowly take away each one, each label, and just leave it with I am. How does that make you feel? Like, if you were to go describe who you are, Danielle, who would you describe who you are in one sentence?
I would not have a description right now. I think it leaves that open to you being able to create that person that you want to be when you start to take away all that stuff. Like what do you have left, and what can you create for yourself to be?
Right. So again, work-life balance, work-life harmony, they seem similar, but they're not synonymous, okay? And another thought process in regards to work-life balance is that it refers to how people manage the time they dedicate to work and the time they spend on other activities. And this is where I'm really getting more and more dialed into work-life harmony, because it involves incorporating work into the rest of the life of our lives in a way that promotes happiness, both at home and in office, while work-life balance is sort of like, you know, it's outdated. Like that's an 80s thing, right? What would you say is another way to find work-life harmony?
Well, I think it's important if you are struggling with this and need to find a way that you're feeling more, if you want to use the word balance. But I think what you need to do is you need to figure out like, what does your week look like? And yes, work flows into our home life because it's a constant job. It like, even home life is a constant job. Like for me, I'm a homemaker. That's my life 24/7. So for me to like think that I'm going to shut something off is impossible. The same as for you to be able to shut everything off is impossible, because it's your life. And I think that it's important to share that life and the thoughts and the things that are going on with those that are with you. And I think that it's like to find that harmony. Like, it may not be an equal split of us spending time together. Like, yeah, we have Saturday and Sunday, but in reality, because Monday through Friday is certain aspects of your life, no different than school, work, activities that we have going on, Saturday and Sunday roll right into that. And so it's to find those other activities that we can do together as a family, whether it's to go for a 45-minute walk and just have a conversation at that time. And I think for a lot of people, it's just that intentional focus of that time being spent together that fills that bucket. It doesn't have to be 16 hours a day. It's just that little bit of time where it's intentional and focused on what we have going on as a family and just having a conversation with one another. And I think that helps. And I know you and I talked about a different schedule that we're going to look at working out. Like, we both want to work out, but fortunately for us, like, our schedules just don't match up. So, hey, like Friday nights, Wednesday nights, we don't have anything going on. Like, let's sync our workout schedule together to that time. And it may not be a lot, but I think when you look at the time we spend driving in the car that we get to talk to one another, the time we work out together, it adds up to being a lot of time that fills that bucket because it's intentional time spent together. And so the other nights that there's practice and stuff going on, it's just our life. Like, it's not separate. It's our life, whether it's work or it's not. It's just our life.
Yeah, and you make a good point in terms of not separate. Like, they shouldn't be in competition with one another. They should really coexist. And I think one of the things what I'm hearing you say, Danielle, is you got to set priorities. If you want work-life harmony, you got to set priorities. And I think people go, well, goals, that's just for work. No, I think it's for your family, it's for your schooling, it's for your health. And you got to establish goals and priorities for each of those categories: work, school, home. And this, what I think this will do is like find one priority for each area for each week. Because this way, at least you feel you're progressing. I mean, they say there often, I heard this quote, like, change is automatic in life. Whether we like it or not, change is going to happen. Each day is going to be different, but progress is not. And then when you're intentional, for example, setting priorities, to focus on the tasks that will give you satisfaction on completing, that will give you happiness and a sense of accomplishment. I think it's one of the ways to really promote and gain this work-life harmony that we're talking about. I think another way to get this work-life harmony is to be present. Be present when you're working, whether you're with your significant other, when you're working out. Be fully engaged with the task at hand. Like, for me, it drives notifications on phones literally drive me bonkers. Like, I'll own to this notification here, buzz, this, and then also they'll be talking to you like, hold on a second, I gotta check my notification because this notification right now is more important of the score update versus you sitting across from me. Really? Hello? I think this is important, is you gotta be present. And I'm not perfect at this. I sometimes, Danielle and I will have a conversation and we'll stop. She's like, okay. I'm like, what? She goes, you're thinking about something. No, I'm not. Liar, liar, pants on fire. But I am like, that's why a lot of times in the mornings I don't like looking at my emails. I don't like looking at my text messages, especially if I want to have that intentional time with Daniil, because I know that will take up space in my brain. And I'm one of those people like, if I see it, I want to tackle it. I think a lot of people are that way. I mean, I don't know about you. If one's to achieve work-life harmony, what's your thoughts about being present?
Well, I think it all comes to being present and intentional in that time, um, and understanding what that actually looks like. You know, if we're being intentional on having a family dinner, like we don't have the phones at the table with us. Why? Because it's easy for one of us, because there's three of us, to want to go play with the squirrel. Like it that's what it is. And I think that you really need to work to. I was listening to a podcast and getting rid of the squirrels. Like we think that it's helping us be productive, but is it? You know? And I think sometimes when we recognize what the squirrels are, then it's easy to like put the blinders down and to not have to like to think of them. So how do you eliminate them? You know, family dinner, no phones at the table. It's just as simple as something as that. And after a while, the more time that goes between, like, because I think a lot of it too is we're so used to like now, like we have such a short attention span. Like the longer you keep the phones away from the table, the more that you can start getting into that more quality time together. And I think it just depends on where you're at and how you want to work on those things. But being present and intentional, I think, is a big part.
Yeah, it makes a difference. Like, and there's something you just gotta like calm yourself down and go, okay, breathe. Okay, I don't have to check my phone right now. I don't have to go ahead and look at that text message, but it's there. It's sitting right there. It's like that. It's like that dust on the counter that you got to go ahead and wipe off. And again, remember, like a thought doesn't have a meaning into it until you attach a meaning to it. Right? We make things a bigger deal than they a lot of times are, and I think one other way is in terms of finding this work-life harmony. You got to enjoy what you do. If you're not a passion about your work, you've got to find a purpose in what you do and embrace it, right? Like, I have a passion. It's one of my lifelong things. I love coaching. I love coaching people. I love being the one that has the great questions, because I know that the answers are within the questions. So if I want to be a volleyball coach, I just don't want to show up just because I know some volleyball drills and like that. I want to be good at it. You know, um, some of you may be watching this today and going, you know what? I might enjoying myself as a spouse, a husband or a wife or whatever it may be. Well, guess what? You got to find a purpose behind it, and you got to explore why you do what you do want to do, and don't just half-ass it. Just go all in. Like, if I want to be a great husband, I got to start studying things to be a great husband. Was that a notification? um, if I want to be, a better athlete, if I want to be in better health, like dive into it. Like go into it like you have nothing to lose. And some people might be going, but if I go all into it, what if I might fail? If I go really get passionate about my work and get passionate about these things, what if it doesn't work out? Well, then you find out. Then you find out. And if you don't have enough personal or family time, I think you got to make changes to allow for those rewarding experiences. You know, as we go through the last 5 minutes of our discussion here, work-life balance and harmony, they're important on different fronts, right? They can reduce sickness, stress, burnout, but also improves happiness and productivity. What have you learned in terms of when we just started to accept that these are different passions of ours, these are things that get us excited of ours? What were some of the benefits you gain by embracing the work-life harmony thought process versus versus the work-life balance process?
I think a lot of it was being able to help you with different things. Like we're not so isolated in our world. But by being able to contribute and help another person, I think that helps that fulfilling, kind of that purpose behind what you're doing. But I think it also fulfills you as a person, because when you can help other people, then it's not just about you. And so when you can make that shift and stop being competitive with where the time or the attention is being spent, like become a part of it. And when you're a part of it, then you can contribute to it. And it kind of helps to then like take away that competitive, like, oh, you're always working, or those feelings of whatever, like you're a part of it now. And so you can contribute to it and you can support it. And now you're making it not about you, but about somebody else. And I think that's where you can become more fulfilled in anything that you're doing.
You make a very good point when, in terms of like not only one of the benefits of work-life harmony, but how to achieve it is that what I'm hearing you say is that nobody gets to the finish line alone. It's a lot more work when you do it alone. And it's a lot more gratifying when you're not going at it alone. And I know I had to struggle with that for a handful of years, where I just felt like I'm the one who's got to do it. And I would leave you on the outside. And then when I started to actually ask again, like for your input and your feedback and your help, man, it's like, holy smokes, like I've had this, like these pearls of wisdom, this gold mine of insights and wisdoms, and you know me, you get a chance to see me, that I wasn't tapping into. And I think it's so important if you want to achieve work-life harmony, you need to be willing to build a community of people who can not only dispense advice on how to like navigate other things, but actually help to get that work done. And I know at times I was nervous to do because I'm like, well, she says no, or like that. But then I think, like you said, it's like when, for example, when we first launched Rare Leaders, it was an exciting thing to talk about together. It may have been like awkward sometimes and talk about different goals. And like, I'm one of those guys that can have an idea like 11 o'clock at night and say, hey, we got to talk about this. I got an idea. Like I'm reading a book on Steve Jobs right now. He called people at 2 o'clock in the morning. When you have these moments of brilliance, these ideas that just like doesn't allow you to sleep, you got to share it with someone. And you want to share with people that you can trust in, you can confide in. And truly, like, when it comes to work-life harmony, it is about energy management. And harmonizing your energy is amazing. And what it does as well, I think for me, it enables a life that feels good and expresses gratitude to the people who play a key role in helping us build something better. And in a nutshell, a more acceptable and adaptable and impactful world. So as we finish up here on the thought process of work-life harmony versus work-life balance, what would you say are some final thoughts that you would like to add to the conversation today?
Well, I don't think that you want to leave it to having to take a 10-day vacation. No, to
True.
make that time happen. Obviously, this was something that we had planned for our anniversary, but like just to take the time and figure out different ways that you, like if you're feeling something, communicate it. Like the other person's probably not going to know that feeling you're having or what's going on. So just be willing to talk about it and figure out a compromise that you can come up with together that can help make that a little more bearable, enjoyable, and then eventually just becoming more part of your daily life.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that we live in an incredible world today. Things are constantly evolving and changing, and we are, in some regards, forced to adapt. But I think the ability to adapt keeps us from going extinct. Extinct in our work, extinct in our personal lives and our relationships. And I think I just encourage everyone just, to explore more the idea of work-life harmony. Think about the things that you're passionate about and why you do what you do. And take that break for yourself. Just take that time out. Call a time out. Call an audible. It's okay. It's okay to do it. And understand that, the work and life, they don't have to be in competition with one another. they can work is this a big word I'm using right now, Danielle? Symbiotically together. If you found value in this conversation, please feel free to go ahead and share it. Look for Rare Leaders on YouTube, also on my Twitter. And then, of course, if you are watching from YouTube or on Twitter, send a request to look at Rare Leaders in the Facebook group. The goal is to inspire, make an impact, to connect, collaborate, and contribute with other leaders. This is a space to collaborate. This is a space that you can leave the title at the door and be you, because I think at the end of the day, we're all human beings. Until next time, I'm Tony Jalen with
Danielle Jalen.
Until next time, I'm see you next